like nervous. Okay. Alright, so hi everyone, welcome. I am Sarah, the Speaker of Truth.
And hello, I am Arvind Devaya, the Seeker of Truth.
And today we want to do like a podcast.
Yeah, this is our first
episode. Video, our first episode. And we're choosing to do a response on the podcast from Douglas Murray and...
I think it was Jordan Peterson.
It was Jordan Peterson's
podcast.
Let's start it over.
It's alright, no.
Okay, are we okay?
that was quick.
Okay, guys.
We're gonna keep going.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay, so it's Jordan Peterson's podcast that he had Douglas Murray on. Who is the author of his new book called The War on the West.
The War on the West.
And we wanted to kind of give our response to some of the things that they said in the podcast and on our view on the War on the West.
Yeah.
So I guess let's go into a little bit about what the War on the West is first.
So those who do not know about the War on the West, it is basically how a lot of people are becoming more awoke, and they think that slavery was bad.
It's basically
communism was bad.
Can I talk?
Okay. Yeah, go
so
ahead.
As Douglas Murray put it, he said he views it as Western anti-westernism.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of where people are kind of going against every aspect, as he calls it, of Western culture. He calls it an assault at such a fundamental and dishonest level of everything that has to do with the West. He thinks that people are kind of going against it so much so like if it was created by the West, it's just bad. And I actually have something to say about that, where he said that it's an assault at a fundamental and dishonest level. I don't think it's an assault at a dishonest level. I think it's rooted in honesty.
Yeah.
And he said people have this attitude basically that everything is bad, which I already said pretty much, if it comes from the West.
Yeah, I think there's it comes from an honest place, and obviously humans tend to take things a little too far sometimes, but it's like arguably too far because like the response that we're getting now from people who are waking up and rising up and saying that the systems need to change, or we need a better world or a better economic system, and just better culture internationally. So they are waking up and saying stuff like that. So they do want. I feel like there's some honesty in the movement that people have. They want something better, but not many people know what that looks like.
Yeah, I think it's rooted in the fact that people know that we need change. It's time for change in the West. And basically, I mean, you could argue that people might take it out of proportion, but I do think it's rooted in honesty. It's rooted in truth, in real issues.
Yes, like I think everything is rooted in truth. Like I think almost most things are rooted in truth, unless someone's intentionally trying to lie. Like even if someone's reaction is really bad, or you don't approve of someone's reaction, it's still out of some honesty. Like I wish I could give an example. Reparations, for example, like the Black Lives Matter people, the African Americans in the U.S. They're basically like I don't know if they still demand reparations, but that was a big deal where they were like, we need to fix the past, or fix what has happened. So they carry it. I think I'm losing my point. What is it going with this? Sorry.
So I think basically you're saying that like they do have a good reason to want to kind of right the wrongs that were done.
Yeah, like so the response, the reaction can be like, it might look radical, it might be like, oh, Black Lives Matter, or the American system doesn't care about us, racism, blah blah blah, and there may be riots, there may be this and that, you might look at it, oh, why do they need to do all of this?
Yeah, you might argue, oh, it's extremist.
Yeah, but it's rooted in something honest.
Yeah, it's rooted from a good place. It's rooted because they're trying to restore the balance and sort of, right the wrongs, like I said.
Yeah.
Another thing that Douglas Murray touches on in the podcast is he says that he thinks that the people want to restore, they either want to restore like the country back to how it was in the pre-colonial era, or that they're supporting Marxism. And we kind of think that it's not about restoring it back to the past. It's about forward-moving progress. It's not about going backwards. Nobody wants that. So I don't know where he got that idea. But yeah, so...
I maybe it's reparations, maybe that's where you got the idea. I know, like India, for example,
but that's not really restoring. We're not saying we want to go back.
No, it doesn't
to
go
like
back exactly. No, but I think he's misunderstood, and I think he gets the idea from how countries and people want certain things back. Like the biggest diamond in the world, the Koh-i-Noor diamond, I think it's called, was stolen from India during the British rule. And now the Queen has it, or someone, and obviously India doesn't feel good about that, and because it was stolen, and we know the thieves, and they have it in their museums or whatever. Like even a lot of artwork from around the world that was stolen during this period that we're talking about, where the West or the North, like Europe, colonized the world, pillaged the world, and stole from the world. So a lot of countries want something back that they're hurting from, and the past doesn't sit right because it's not been balanced, it's not been made right. So that's probably where he's getting the idea that people wanted to go back to the colonial
era.
Colonial era. But that's not ever going to happen, because the world always moves forward, and these things happen. People sometimes ask, like, why do bad things happen? Sometimes bad things, need to happen in a sense, like as a way to move forward. So humans have not seen this part of themselves, I feel, this ugly part of themselves. And if it's white people or black people, it doesn't matter who we're talking about. It's humanity as a whole had this ugliness of like treating other people
in its past, in
its past, treating like people who look different in a cruel way. And now we're face to face with our own past, and people are saying it's not okay. And I think that's the forward movement here.
So the next, go on to the next. Yeah. So the next topic we wanted to touch on, was. So he talks about how people are kind of taking down even historical figures of the West, such as Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln.
I want to introduce this, like why he's talking about this. He's talking about this as he's saying that the attack, the war on the West, is simply for revenge.
Yeah.
And he's saying that there's no truth, there's no, like, he's unhonest.
Yeah,
right?
He's basically saying, in his words, he said that they're not interested in a fair analysis of the West and its history, traditions, or claims. They're interested in a form of revenge, is what he is claiming.
Yeah.
And so we want to kind of start going into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Can I go into
Yeah.
Okay, so he's basically saying that people are trying to attack our past historical figures, such as Abraham Lincoln.
Our heroes.
Yeah, our historical heroes, such as Abraham Lincoln and Winston Churchill. And so one thing, we'll start with Abraham Lincoln. He talks about how people are taking down like statues, or have taken down some statues of Abraham Lincoln. One of those statues was one of him with an African slave.
Yeah, in Boston.
Yeah. And the slave was depicted in the statue as being like lower than Abraham,
I think he had,
right?
he knelt, like he was kneeling down.
Yeah. So basically, we think that is why people
tore it down
or took it down. And Douglas Murray doesn't mention that. It's because it was depicting slavery. Like it was showing it, and it's showing African slaves, and it was showing them as lower, like in him being kneeling down from Abraham Lincoln. And so,
Well, to be honest, we don't know if he mentioned it in detail in his book, but
we didn't read the book.
So he's written a book. He's written a book called "The War on the West," and that's what the podcast was on.
I said it in the beginning.
Yeah, so
just in case.
Yeah, like we're generally talking about this larger conversation, but he actually wrote a book called The War in the West, and that's what he was promoting on Jordan Peterson's podcast, and that's what they were talking about.
So basically, we looked into the statues of Abraham Lincoln that were taken down that he was talking about, and we found that there was good reason for it.
Yeah.
Because one, we just talked about how the slave was in it.
Yeah. The other one.
And then the other one.
The other one was Dakota 38. That's, if you want to look it up. But basically, it was in Portland, Oregon, I believe. And it was a statue of Abraham Lincoln. They tore it down and they spray painted that on it. Dakota 38. They spray painted it. And I was looking into it, what that meant. And we found out that Abraham Lincoln had a sentence execution for 38 Native Indians, or Native Americans, basically, to death in a Dakota War. I forgot the year. It's 1862. I don't remember. So that is when he executed, innocent Native Americans because they simply would not move from their land. They had treaties with the government at the time for that they will listen to the government, the U.S. government, and cooperate and move if they need to, or if the government wants them to. But they will be also given like aid, like food and shelter, or make sure that they're okay. But until then, the Native Americans did not feel that the need and the aid was good. They felt they were suffering, they were starving already. And the land that they were trying to push them to, I think it was west to Minnesota. I don't remember too well from what I read. But they were trying to push them into a land where they knew for sure that they won't be able to survive, and they were afraid of starvation. So they didn't want to move, and Abraham Lincoln sentenced them to die. So as great of a hero he's been in the Civil War movement and being in the forefront of anti-slavery,
he's not all perfect.
He's not all perfect, and so there are reasons why these heroes are being torn down.
Yeah, and not everything he did was good.
Yes.
Can I check really quick if it's still recording? Or I'll do it while you're talking about the next point. So the next point is about Winston Churchill. So Douglas Murray said that people kind of have the attitude that if we can take down Winston Churchill, then we can take down like the British patriotism. Yeah.
So yeah, it goes back to you can check this.
Yeah, so you can tell them.
So okay.
Let me check this. It's recording.
Awesome. All right. So it goes back to
recording is like when it has the little square, right? In the middle.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it is. So that goes back to again Douglas Murray saying that that people are out for revenge. They don't have no base. There's no basis for these movements, and so they're trying to tear it down. So he says that the idea of tearing down these heroes is just to take down the West, or take down the core of the West, and anything that's from the
British
West.
Patriotism.
And aimly, specifically the patriotism, so national pride of the UK, right? So Winston Churchill was a big wartime hero. I think World War II. Yeah, it was World War II. So they have been trying to take him down as well. Part of this movement of awakeness, or to a better world. People wanting a better reality, or not being okay with all of the wrongs of the past. And I believe that. Well, I know for a fact that he wasn't all good either. So, it's very commonly known in the East, where Winston Churchill was a major player, so to speak, in the British rule of the subcontinent. So India, Pakistan, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, I think as well, like that whole region. And he actually laid down the plan for the country's division. So that subcontinent got divided because of Winston Churchill. And people still, till this day, blame or feel hurt that their country was torn apart. Now, if the audience here is from America, imagine if someone drew a line through America and said like, this is, this is going to belong to someone else, and it's your country, but you don't get a say. And from now onwards, for the next hundreds and thousands of years, you will live with a divided country. So that's what the reality is in the East. And Winston Churchill did this. And not only that, during the World War II, he let millions of people starve to death and took their food to serve the British Army. So they were ruling over those regions of Asia, and they took the food from those people and gave it to the army. And voila, you win World War II. Great job, the West. But millions of people died. And the English take pride in that. So
Did you talk about what he did to India? Like British colonial?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I've been talking about.
Okay.
So basically, but the new people are the new age. The new age is rising up against all these things, even in England, even in UK, even in the West, all over the West, all over America. Like, we're not okay with any of this. So I think that there is some honesty in this uprising or movement.
Okay, so the next topic that we wanted to touch on, I think it was, this is the part. So yeah, Jordan Peterson mentions that in order to believe that slavery is wrong, that you have to hold some value of individualism and a value that the individual should be sovereign, meaning they should be able to make choices that aren't subject to the will of another. They should basically have freedom. That believing that the valuing the individual and the ability of the individual to make its own free choices, be self-governed, and not have to succumb to the will of another. And he does mention a point that individualism and these like sovereignty and stuff, this is very much a Western like value concept, or a Western concept.
Yeah,
and that is true, that you do have this concept of the individual and expressing yourself.
Yeah.
And
individualism.
Yeah, individualism is a big thing in the West.
Like, for example, a very quick example, people in the US, a lot of the public, like a lot of the schools, they all wear their own clothes. Like, we can choose what we can wear to school.
I mean, there's dress code to an extent. Some schools have uniform, but
okay, but in the other side of the world,
but most public schools don't have a uniform, but they do have a dress code, like to some extent.
But
like, you can't wear short skirts or something that, like revealing clothes.
In most of the other part of the world, it is actually like more so uniform.
Just other countries other parts of the world are a lot more. Less about the individual and more about the sameness.
Working together.
More about everyone like the culture is much more about sameness, everyone following the same values, doing the same things, kind of.
Yeah, but to be honest, a lot of the kids growing up now in the East, they don't like that, and because it's getting
a lot of them are trying to adopt American values.
Yeah,
they want to be more like westernized. Yeah, they want to value their individualism more. They want to creatively express more.
Yeah, like
they want to like pursue their passions instead of just
and those are
being a doctor or something.
Things. Yeah, those are all right things. And so there are positive values from the West that the East is learning, but they're also adopting a lot of the bad things of the West. Okay, go on.
Okay, so I did want to say, so basically what we're trying to say is, these are good values that the West has, and we should keep these values. These values do promote freedom. Not all Western values are bad. We're not putting a full attack on the West. We're saying we're not even attacking the West. We're just saying that not all the values of the West are bad. But there was some difference that we noted that we wanted to say, which is the difference between superficial individualism versus.
Yeah. So I wanted to I think before that I wanted to say that so like. I would say like in the West, the individualism is actually a positive movement. It's not a negative one. Mm-hmm. However, when you take it to the level of not understanding why we are individuals and why it's important to respect our sovereignty, as Jordan Peterson puts it, so to honor each person's freedom of speech, rights and stuff like that, that's individualism. The reason, I feel like the West has that positive individualism, but they don't know why it's so sacred. And this is something that the East, even though they don't really have individualism like that, but they do know why each individual is sacred. And it goes into why they do the why. This is it's called why in English. It's different languages call it different things.
That?
It's called a why.
I didn't know that.
I heard it somewhere that they call it a why.
Okay.
Maybe it's upside down why, but anyway, it's like honoring the sacred within you, and that's what it means. So they honor the sacred within you. So the West doesn't have that concept. They don't understand that there's something sacred fundamentally that connects us all.
And we all come from the same source, the same God, if you believe. But no matter what we come from, we all come from the same thing.
So the individualism on the West, with detached from that truth, becomes this gross undertaking of
like a superficial
accumulation and greed, and like all about me, right?
Yeah.
So it's like my status, it's my wealth, it's my security, it's my accumulation, and I don't care about the other person as much because hey, it's individualism. So individualism becomes nasty when it's departed from the core essence of why individualism
from the sacred truth that we're all connected.
Should be promoted. Yes, like each person is beautiful. Each person is sacred. And from the East, the connection of the West and the East, the knowledge of the East and the upward nature of the individualism of the West needs to be connected, where people understand that we're all one. And we're all the same, and that's why. And I think Jordan Peterson actually, I love him. I actually really like his talks, and I think he asks very good questions in the podcast. And he was like, why is slavery wrong? And it was it seems like he also mentioned it's like obvious.
Before we go there, can I say?
1 second, I was trying to link
okay. I
that
thought we were going to the next one.
to what I was saying.
Because that was later, so why
No. Oh, okay.
So something I wanted to add before we move on to why it's
Okay.
wrong. I guess I could say it later. It doesn't matter. You can go why slavery is wrong first. I can still say this later.
No, I'm not trying to say why slavery is wrong. I was trying to comment on something.
Oh, you can. Go ahead. You can finish.
Okay, so
unless you want me to.
It's fine. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually was supposed to say this earlier. I was planning to.
Okay.
So when we're talking about how to some extent individualism, it actually is a good thing, and it does promote freedom, and it's a good value that we should keep in the West. But even though we're basically saying like how like it does promote freedom, yet today we still have modern day slavery.
Oh yeah.
So that kind of adds to the superficiality of the individualism, because we still have modern day slavery in a different way. It might not be as bad as it was in the past, but... And
I was going to say, the way that... The reason why this is important is because Jordan Peterson was explaining that that if you believe slavery is wrong, so again, going back to what I was saying, like, why is slavery wrong, he asked, and then he said, like, the only reasons you would think that is, like, it's a moral wrong, like, just off of face value is wrong, but then also it's wrong on an individual level for the person who's being oppressed. So and then he said, unless you believe that the individual has something like an intrinsic value, which is what I'm calling sacred, but he used the word intrinsic value of the individual. Unless you believe that, you would not think slavery is wrong. So he says that there must be some idea of this intrinsic value. But they don't really understand what that is, and that's why it becomes superficial.
Yeah.
So they know it's wrong, but they don't know why, and it's become a superficial thing. And then linking it to what Sarah was saying just now about why. So Jordan Peterson was saying that so if you don't understand, so. They were saying like they're swapping it out. I think that's what you want to talk about?
No, I want to talk about briefly because I need to explain what I mean when I say that we have modern day slavery today. So I'm sure maybe many of you already know what I'm talking about, but when I say that today we still have modern day slavery, so these values of individualism are not helping us because we're lacking the sacredness, like he said, so it's become a superficial individualism. And what I mean by modern day slavery is if you look at our economy, if you look at most people are working like 9-to-5 jobs, 40 hours, 40 plus hours a week. And people are slaving away to survive. So many people are paying expensive amounts of rent, expensive amounts on food. When you go to other countries, as you've told me, you've traveled around a lot.
Yeah, I've traveled a lot.
You said people in other countries are always shocked at how much we spend on, was it on food?
And
on rent even?
Even hospital, like a lot of
even
medical,
hospital bills to deliver a baby.
To deliver a baby. It's very expensive in America. It's free in most countries.
It's free to deliver a baby in
other
other countries.
Or very inexpensive because...
very little cost.
Yeah.
So basically, like, we're robbing our people here. We're charging them up the ASS and we are making them work away like slaves. Most people feel that they don't have the time to pursue their passions or to focus on other things because they have to make ends meet or they have to support their family.
Yeah, and it's all designed. It's a system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
modern day slavery.
It's the culture.
That's what I've called it since I was a little kid.
Yeah, I mean I have as well. And I think culture is a system. You can create culture. I think government does create culture. And I think it's also media. Media creates culture, and it makes norms. It makes what is normal, and that's the system. And so even though you're not directly a slave, you don't have a slave owner that you meet every day telling you that, hey, you need to work 40 hours a week to get a roof over your head and food, and but you're having it indirectly being told like, hey, you have no freedom in this life that you're here.
You have to work
You have
hard.
to work the whole time to get your roof over your head and your food. And so it's the same thing as slavery, because very few people are able to kind of break out of the chains of survivalism. And there's a lot of that backward culture of the past of animals and stuff out in the wild, and like, so we kind of take it, we believe that that's the way and that's how it is, and we all have to struggle.
And the truth is, it doesn't have to be like that.
There needs to be poor people, and there needs to be like people stepping on each other to get ahead. Like this whole notion of the capitalism world, and I'm not knocking businesses and the right to earn money and pursue So there's things about capitalism that I agree with, obviously, but the way that the superficial individuals have taken it forward is very ugly.
Yeah, and they're taking advantage of others as well.
Yeah,
and
that's the culture.
Yeah. So basically what we're getting at here is that we need to combine the values of the East and the West, or you say the East, South, West, North, like all of them. We need to combine all of the good values of each parts of the world and find a balance. And I think that is what is trying to happen right now with this so-called war on the West, with the changing attitudes of people all over the West. Especially a lot of people today are trying to adopt Eastern traditions. A lot of people are turning to Hinduism, Buddhism, or just forms of spirituality and spiritual teachings that came from the East or came from even Africa, which is
And just so you know, when we say the West, obviously everyone knows that.
Losing my map.
Everyone knows that the West includes
geography.
Europe, so it's not only America and Canada or Mexico, but Mexico's not really Western, but Europe is West, but they're really all the North, and we'll go into that maybe in a different video. But the West, the so-called West, is including Europe and North America, most of North America.
Okay, so our next point.
I want to actually touch back on this for a second.
Okay.
The part of so Jordan Peterson was saying like what is slavery and stuff like that, and if you really understand it, you have to if you're against slavery, you would have to agree that each person has intrinsic value, and if you believe that, you would want to remove slavery. And if you remove slavery, the issue that he says is that you swap it out for a different type of slavery. And I think that's the part where people don't realize why that happens. And I think that happens because of the disconnect of the true reason why there's intrinsic worth for a person. Because if that's your basis, like if you believe that each person is valuable in the same way that you're valuable, if you really believe that, then you would not stand for any kind of slavery, right? But how is it so easy for us to get swapped and swap out like other slavery and give us a different form of slavery, and people don't even realize? And I think the reason why people don't realize that this is happening is because they don't understand why they're against slavery in the first place, the intrinsic value part. So, and that's the part that the East comes in, and I think that Eastern cultures, they believe that we're all one. The universe is all one existence, and even not only the East, like obviously I'm talking about India and the Indian cultures like Buddhism, Hinduism, with the Vedic knowledges, which is like goes back a lot further, but also in Africa, there's a word called Ubuntu, which means that we're all one, and it also means that like I don't exist without you. So there's a very strong connection between people.
And then one thing I want to add to that is why is it wrong to treat people bad? Why is it wrong for slavery, like Jordan Peterson asked? It's wrong to do bad things to people because, like you said, it affects. We are all connected. And I say it also creates a ripple effect. Anytime you treat somebody bad, it creates a ripple effect into the universe, and everyone is going to feel it.
Yeah,
it's gonna have a chain reaction.
Yeah, and I want to give a couple of examples of that. One is the whole uprising that we're seeing right now, the anti-westernism or whatever he called it. It's an uprising because it's a chain reaction. Like you cause suffering, you're gonna see it come back.
Yeah, so and it's just gonna.
It's a balancing.
The more suffering
tilt.
you create, it's gonna just permeate through the world. And it's gonna ripple.
Yeah, until and it'll come to your doors knocking. Even if you feel it doesn't affect you, and it's something happening in Syria or Africa or wherever it's happening, it will come knocking to you eventually. And I think that time is now, and it's coming knocking. The second example I want to give on this that I knew about a while back, a couple of years ago, was Germany. Germany has Turkey as a neighboring country. Now Germany is like, hey, you guys have issues, but why are you like immigrating to our country? And you're taking our jobs, or you're making our place not as German or whatever. They have issues. They don't like these Turkish people. I'm not saying all Germans are like this, obviously, but there is there was, I don't know if it still is, but I think there still is this consensus among most of the German people that they don't like Turkish people coming in when their country has issues. They're like, go fix your own country. Go back to your country and fix your own country. Why are you bothering us? Now, guess what? My answer to that is like, hey, Germany, you're not isolated in the world. Like, you are among all. So if your neighbor has issue, that's kind of your issue too. And if other countries or other people have issues, that's our issue too. So we're all connected. And the sooner we realize this, the faster we can kind of like move forward and not keep on having the repetition of all these issues manifesting in different forms.
So should we go into this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so they were also saying like they're kind of comparing the current Western world, Western system to like Marxism, and that of kind of like getting rid of the classes.
Yeah. So basically they're like, if Westernism is so bad, then what's the and then like I think Douglas Murray was the one who was saying a lot about Marxism. It says like, the opponents of Douglas Murray, like the people who want change, they're all Marxists, and they all want a communism type deal where
everyone's equal.
Yeah, it's basically like Marxism. Like as far as I understand, it's like basically the main core of it is that a class less. So there's no classes. There's no elite.
There's no like upper, lower, middle class.
Like that whole class, because someone's going to be oppressed. Like that's the whole deal, right? Like even like races
to make everyone equal.
Everyone equal. Now, how do you do that? They've been like ripping their hair apart, trying to figure this out. And some people have ideas and stuff like that. But I know Jordan Peterson is against it, and I know like a lot of other people are against it. But people do like the idea and play around with it. It's kind of like the new fad. But You want to speak more on this?
Well, we just posted this question, like, how can you tell people to be classless when you don't understand why? Like, why are we all trying to be equal?
And it goes back to the understanding intrinsic value of the individual.
Yeah.
We're all individually sacred because we're all one.
Connected. We're all one. We're all from the same source.
Yeah, like if you feel that you want to protect yourself and you don't want to die, you feel you're sacred, like, or else why wouldn't you just die or just get sick or take on harm? Like, you believe there's something sacred about you, and you gotta understand that same thing
and that reminds me
is
of
in everyone.
One thing also that Douglas Murray said later. So he was talking about how during, like, was it Thomas Jefferson's time, that he was, like, struggling because
Can you go back to the
this is connected to this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was struggling because he was still not aware if there was an answer to the monogenesis or polygenesis.
That's going into slavery, so we're not, I want to.
But this is connected. So I'm gonna
right.
Yeah, you're gonna see.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was saying that Thomas Jefferson was struggling in his time with not being aware to the answer of, is the human race monogenesis or polygenesis? Meaning, did the human race come from the same? This is his words. The same stock, or were they from different lines? And
as a justification for slavery, by the way.
Yeah. So for like Thomas Jefferson, why he struggled.
Is slavery wrong? Because if they're from a different people, then it's okay. Obviously, it's not.
I just want to say that it's totally ridiculous. Even his use of the word stock, like, were they from the same stock? And what I have to say about that is that it doesn't matter. All life forms matter. Even the plants matter. Even the animals matter. All life forms matter.
It goes back to the same.
It doesn't matter if we even came from a different, like, somehow we were produced differently, or a different continent or whatever. We're all on the same earth. We're all here together, and we all have to work together here on the earth. So the best thing to do is to treat each other with kindness, love, and respect, and work together in harmony.
Yeah, I feel like the sacredness or the worth intrinsic is also among plants and animals, and if you respect life or you respect any, you should respect everything, and appreciate everything. Wouldn't it be? It's beautiful that we have an earth. It's beautiful that we have all the things. We have plants, we have birds, we have animals. It's beautiful. I think we should appreciate all these things. There's other people. We're not alone. That's beautiful to have other people.
Yeah, and why would it matter if we were from a different stock? Like, why would it matter if we were from a different source or whatever? Like, we're all here together. Why not love each other? Yeah. Why not work together? Why should we hate each other? Why should we treat each other bad?
Yeah.
We shouldn't.
And then
So why should it matter? That's, to me, Douglas Murray's point wasn't a very good one.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid.
It doesn't defend Thomas Jefferson.
But then, like, Douglas Murray also said,
whatever he was trying to say.
Later in the 1900s or something, they figured out that, we were all from one stock, quote unquote. But you know what? I think it goes further than that. I think we're all from Earth. How about that?
Yeah. We're even if we came from aliens, we're all here on the Earth
even if
now.
we're from Mars, we're all from, like, existence or space.
We all exist,
like,
so it doesn't matter.
We should take care of...
love each other.
Yeah.
Let's see the next point. Okay, so this is kind of a deep one.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier he was trying to talk about, he was talking about how people want revenge, or how he thinks that they don't, where was it? That they're not interested in a fair analysis, supposedly. They're just interested in a form of revenge. And what I have to say about that is, even if they are interested in revenge, so what? Because what? Let me see my notes here. I'm saying, hold up. Okay, so this is like some spiritual knowledge here for you guys. Some of you might know what I'm talking about, and some of you might not. But it is a thing that we actually hold in our cellular memory, in our DNA. We hold memory of our lineage, our ancestors, our lineage. The things that they experienced are within us. So,
like, we have their nose, for example.
Yeah, but more than just that, we actually hold a cellular memory inside of us, passed down from our ancestors, from our lineage. So what I have to say about that is, of course, the people who are who have ancestors who were enslaved, of course they still have that pain within them. They still have that cellular memory in their soul, in their DNA, in their flesh. And it's in their being.
Yeah.
They have that memory, and of course they are hurt. Of course they are upset. Of course they are angry. Of course they would want revenge. And it's only natural. And it's only right. It's only fair, in my opinion. It's only natural, and it's understandable. So I do not like that he is against this, because I just feel like if it was his ancestors, he would feel differently. If he was on the other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's only natural to feel that, and not only because you can like conceptually link yourself to your ancestors, but also and also like socially, as humans we're always like connected, but even spiritually, as Sarah is saying, that we are connected, and even like physically we are connected. And I think there is a larger connection with Earth and the cosmos and stuff like that. But even individually as souls or bodies from our own lineage, there's a strong connection. There was like some spiritual people that talk about like even water holding memory, and they're saying that the water is within us. This same water that's in us now used to be in, like, let's say a waterfall, or a parrot or a monkey, or
I thought you were saying like we can feel if our ancestors were in places of water, kind of thing.
Oh no,
I didn't understand that earlier
when I talked to you earlier about this. But no, I was like, so they explained that we have that memory of all the water, and our memories actually pass through, when we pass, our body decays and our water goes into the earth. So our memories stay as well around. So it's not only, genetically passed, but I feel like the earth also has that connection of, all of our experiences.
But it's also genetically passed.
Yes.
So I think, they have every right to feel that way, if that's how they feel.
I by the way, I do not know for a fact that that all water carries memory. I think.
Yeah, I never heard that concept before, but I'm not knocking it.
I think the universe is interconnected with even atoms and molecules, where if one moves, then the whole everything. It's like everything knows that moved, because it's like, let's say it's the picture. If one thing moves, now the picture changes. So I feel like there's a certain knowledge, or an omni knowledge of the universe that is like existence. And I think that when something happens it's never forgotten. I feel like some cruel act from one race to another race, or whatever it is, I think even if the next generation doesn't uprise and ask for like retributions or justice for what happened to the ancestors, I feel like even like maybe if you believe in what I'm saying, you might believe that even the earth will like probably try to find justice, a balance, or through natural disasters, because our water goes to the earth, and what if a tsunami comes or something? I don't know. But if you believe in such things, you can see that link. But obviously, like the universe is very mysterious, and I'm the seeker of truth, so I keep seeking truths. But I think there are certain things that are unknown. Yeah.
I think we have touched on all of our points that I took notes on. But basically, this one? Yeah, we did. So basically, maybe we should just kind of close out with like how we think that this is all just a balancing act, and how it is important for us to accept values of the East, and the East as well to take values from the West. And that is happening today, as you've seen in India. Many people follow Western things. They're trying to adopt Western values and ways of being.
All over Southeast Asia. I've lived in India. I lived in Southeast Asia. I lived in Australia. So that whole
Thailand
region, that's in Southeast Asia.
Oh, sorry, I don't.
and visited Europe
Okay.
As well, and many years in America. So I was born here, if we want to really get into it.
Yeah, he's American, technically, but he's not really. He's like international.
Yeah, I'm very international. I lived abroad for 20 years. And I've been very fortunate to come across so many different cultures and realize that there isn't one way. Like people who have grown up only in one country, whether it be America or China or India or Australia or whatever it is, they start to believe the media, they believe that doctrine, they believe their parents, their society, their culture, and they believe that's the only way. That's the right way. Why? Because that's the only way. Like obviously the right way would be the only way. It's like, that's how human minds think. But once you travel around and you've seen so many different ways, you realize to think about what if there is a better way, or if there is a way that is that satisfies this balancing act. And Marxism doesn't sound like it, and I'm sorry for whoever supports it. Honestly, I haven't looked much into it. Just the fact that it doesn't seem to work from what I've heard from like Jordan Peterson mainly talk about it in his other podcasts. But there is a way, and it's here and it's happening.
And so we think that like Douglas Murray shouldn't be attacking this so-called
war on the West,
or as he calls it, Western anti-westernism. Because I think whatever anti-westernism is happening for a good reason.
For a good reason.
That they're trying to change the values that are not working. They're trying to change the things that are not working in the West. And it's just all part of this beautiful balancing act that's occurring in the whole world right now, where each part of the world is like adopting qualities of the other parts of the world. Like the East is adopting qualities of the West, and the West is adopting Eastern qualities.
And about this balancing act, and I love it how I loved it how Jordan Peterson asked Douglas Murray about the what do you call it, like Western anti-westernism. It says like, to what end? Like how far are they gonna go? To what end? Where does it end? Is it gonna keep going? And the answer is, just like the women's suffrage movement in the 1900s. To what end? Until they got the vote.
Until women have rights, until they can vote.
Like
until
it's
they
a balancing act. Like just because there is like voicing, discontent, voicing injustice, it's not like it's not something bad. Yeah. It's not like, to what end? Are they going to keep going? Yeah, they are going to keep going.
To what end?
Until it balances.
Until the balance is restored. Until harmony is restored.
Yeah, and we have a long way to go. It's not just this movement. It's a global movement, and there's going to be a moment in where we are completely fine, completely balanced, and completely in harmony.
Yeah. So that's to what end?
Yeah, that's to what end. Thank you.
Find the harmony and the balance. All right.
Yeah.
So thank you for listening.
Yeah. And may you have a good day or night wherever you are. And keep seeking the truth. And keep speaking.
What am I supposed to say?
Keep speaking the truth.
Oh yeah, keep speaking the truth. Oh my goodness.
And keep speaking
obviously.
The truth. That's our message. And be a friend of all people. Even if you have to deal with them differently at times, knowing that they might, if you suspect people who might harm you. So, but always have that in your heart where they are your friend, and try to help them wherever you can. I think brotherhood or humanity is to help. That's my message.
All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.